New Zealand First always supports things of this nature where they are good policy, practical policy, and will have a result. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the honourable member Paul Goldsmith.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very kind. It was interesting to have the reference from the previous speaker to the national members not turning up. I certainly read about that in the Dominion Post this morning, saying that the national members hadn't responded to the invitation to be given something on the Maui Dolphins. I went and dug around and I found the letter, and there was no such invitation to me, that's for sure. There was a letter saying something was happening, but there was certainly no invitation. So you sometimes wonder with some of the messages coming from Greenpeace whether it's quite accurate or not. But I just wanted to commend my colleague Jackie Dean for this bill, the Conservation Natural Heritage Protection Bill, her second bill this evening, and a very hard-working and implacably hard-working Member of Parliament that Jackie Dean is. And it's a timely bill because we all know New Zealand is unique in the world as the last significant uninhabited land mass in the world to be discovered by humans only a few hundred years ago. And I've seen trees growing today that were around before humans arrived to these islands. I've seen trees on which mowers have grazed, still living now, that were around before humans reached these islands. And as a result of that, we were a wonderful place in the world with all sorts of species that were unique and had evolved over a long period of time when New Zealand was splendidly isolated from the rest of the world and from humanity. Now all that changed a few hundred years ago when Maori arrived first, and there were a wave of extinctions, and that has continued in recent years. And so it's very important. Then that is only a split second, of course, in geological time, and so we're in a time of rapid change. So it is important that we preserve what is precious, and this bill, which raises some of the maximum penalties in this area around precious species, is very useful. I've never met a spotted or jewelled gecko. I don't understand the logic of people who would seek to put these down their underpants, but from what I can understand, this thing goes on, and this bill, if it helps nip it in the bud, I think will be very useful, not just to New Zealand, but to the global effort against smuggling of geckos and those sorts of things. So, it's often New Zealand makes a massive effort in conservation. It's often forgotten that about 33% of the land mass of New Zealand is in the conservation estate. That's not a mistake. 33%, 1/3 of the land mass of New Zealand is in the conservation estate. And we spend colossal sums on the conservation, 445 million in vote conservation this year, and I'm astounded to hear from the other side of the House the tales of great woe and calamity that somehow not enough resources have been put into this area. I mean, let's just cast our mind back only 10 years ago when it was only 226 million that was being spent in conservation, so we've doubled the amount spent in the last 10 years, and that, of course, is not enough. And it's quite right, things have had to be pulled back a little bit in the last few years, but if you take the longer stretch, there is a very substantial and increased investment in conservation. And it all just goes to show when you hear the likes of Mr. Chevelle talking about the fact that we need to just keep pouring the money in, how this country got itself into such a pretty pass as we had in 2008 when this government inherited a nation pregnant with years of financial deficits coming down the line because the previous government just did not have control over its spending. And I get frustrated with hearing this great moral high ground taken from the other side of the House as if they care more about the environment than us. What we're saying here is that every government has to make that balance between giving the New Zealanders the benefit of a well-run economy that can produce the living standards that all families want and aspire to, and also the very substantial contribution that continues to be made in conservation. And so I'm very proud of this government's record, and I commend Jackie Bill on this Conservation Act, which will be Jackie Dean, I believe. I commend Jackie Dean on her great effort in this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. I recognise